Hello everyone and welcome back to class. It's nice to see you all here again today. Today we're going to go a little bit different. Instead of walking you guys through a certain feature of a program, in this case Google Sheets, I'm going to show you guys how we can use Google Sheets to do a different style of activity. In this case, it's going to be a scavenger hunt. I can't take credit for this idea. This was a coworker who reached out to me and said, "Hey Eric, is it possible to turn a doc into a scavenger hunt that scores itself on Google Sheets?" And I said, "I have no idea. Let's try." Because that's my mentality. I'm that guy that's willing to see if something will happen. So I took it. I put a little bit of time and work into it. I was able to get it to work. I want to share that with you guys today so you can do one on your own. So obviously the first thing I had to do was take all of this information and transfer it over to a Google Sheet, which I did. You copy and paste generally doesn't work well in this scenario because it's going to paste everything into that A cell, A1, which is generally counterproductive to what you're trying to do because then you have to do all this extra manipulation. I found it easier to type it all in, but I would leave that decision up to you and what you feel comfortable doing. So we've got our spreadsheet here, and so we have to do a couple of things now to get this to fully function the way we want. First thing we have to do is we have to add some data validation. In this case, we want to do checkboxes in columns A and E. Unfortunately, you can just choose like column A, data validation. You can choose column E, do data validation, and then just delete where you don't want it. But the problem is with all this already entered, it's going to be a bigger pain than it's going to be an asset. So I'm just going to go quickly here and do them all one at a time while we're doing this. Now, as you're doing your checkboxes, you can leave the values at the default, which is true and false. If you want to change them to something else, that is absolutely fine. But what you have to do is make sure you remember what that value is and make sure that it is the same for all of your options. And I just realized I have an extra one selected here, so I'm just going to remove that data validation. Here we go. Here's our last set of them. Yay, we are almost there. Alrighty. Now, so we've done all of that establishment, and that's really just to get everything primed. Next thing you want to do is you're going to start looking at a way to start calculating the total points for each section. So I'm going to make a section here that says total points. If you're really compulsive, you can make these match. I'm going to tell you that with what we're going to do, it's not going to matter because we're actually going to be getting rid of hiding the rows where we calculate the total points. Oops. That wants to go there. That's going to go there. So it's not critical for you to do it that way, but if you want to make sure they're all the same, it's fine. I understand. I'm not going to judge you for it. What we're now looking to do is we want to start calculating a sum, but we don't just want a straight sum. We want a sum only for the things that they have found. So we want to put a conditional on this sum, and our conditional is going to be if. So we're going to hit equal sign, indicate we're doing a formula. We're going to do sum if, and open it up. And again, what's important here is to read what each category is. And they explain to you really well. So range here is the range that we're testing against a criteria. Basically, where are we looking to find the criteria? In this case, it's going to be A31 up to A2. And then you hit a comma to indicate you're going to your next section. And here's where you want to type in what's your criteria going to be. For us, it's going to be quotes. We want to equal the value of true. Capitalization isn't going to matter, so don't worry. And then finally, what is it that we want to specifically sum up? And that's going to be this column right here, C2 through C31. And you'll see it currently has a value of 0. If I go up and check off, let's say, rubber duck, you'll see the value becomes 5. So I'm going to take that formula, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to paste it over. And what's really nice about this is when I paste it, if you take a look, it automatically adjusted the cell values to E and G. E we have here, G we have here. It's ready to go. We're going to come down here, we're going to do the same thing, sum if. formula. We're going to choose the range, comma, copy equals true, comma, and just shrink that down. Choose our values. Copy the formula again across. And we're going to do it one last time. Now you can have it calculate the sum if and choose all of these separately, but I find that can be a very complicated problem and it lends itself to a lot of errors. If you're not careful, it can be hard to fix. If you're wondering why I'm doing it this way, as opposed to perhaps some other way. And that again becomes a personal preference. If you're very comfortable with, oops, I spelled some if wrong. Sumph if. I want some if. There we go. It depends. You know, if you're really comfortable and you like making more complicated formulas, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging you. I'm just trying to keep it simple for people who may not be as confident or comfortable. So we've got all our point totals here, so I can check things off and I can see that, yeah, it's working. I like to do a couple spot checks just to make sure, you know, everything is working the way it's supposed to be working. But that only gives us subtotals. We want to get a total of all values. So we're going to, down here, we're just going to say final score. And I'm actually going to skip over this space, and you'll see why again in a little bit here. And I'm going to equal sum. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to pick where all those little subtotals I did are. If you hold down the control button, it'll put a comma between each one, indicating they are all separate values. And hit go. You can see that says 0, but as I check them off in different areas, the point values do total accurately, which is nice. And that's fantastic. Now, this is perfectly fine to send out to students this way if that is what you want to do. Go for it. If you want it to look a little, I'm going to say cleaner, we have a couple things we can do. So the first thing I like to do is hide columns that I don't necessarily want the kids to be able to see or change. So I can click into this column C, I can right click it, and there's an option that says hide column. I'm going to do the same for column G. Hide the column, so now it's invisible to them. But you also see these total point lines are there, but there's nothing being calculated, so we're going to do the same with these rows. Right click, hide the row, right click, hide the row, and right click and hide the row. What's nice about doing it this way is it stays hidden from the kids when they copy this doc. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But here you go through all this, and now you've got it set so as the kids find things, they can check them off on the sheet. And you can see that it just adjusts their final score. You don't have to do any extra work for that. To send this out to the students, you can send it out right through Google Classroom. So head over to Google Classroom here. You go into your Google Classroom. Thank you. You go into classwork, create an assignment. I'm assuming all of you know this. Assignment name is Scavenger Hunt. We're going to add something from Google Drive. Choose the sheets Scavenger Hunt. Make a copy for each student. And you hit assign. And I'll go through, it'll make a copy for all your kids. Their name will be attached to it, which is always fantastic. I spelled the word hunt wrong, that's okay. And then if you go to look at their work and you click on the assignment and you open it, you'll see that it shows, you know, those hidden columns. Now, things you gotta be aware of, kids might see that and click on it and see the values. So there is a degree of trust you have to have with your students when you're doing this, that they're gonna, you know, follow the integrity of the assignment. But you should also have an idea of where the points should fall in between, ideally. But that's it on this assignment and how it's created. Like I said, it was just something that came up to me that someone asked about. I wanted to see if it could be done, and it could. But it was nice. It was fun. It was a good challenge for me, and I like challenges, so bring them on. So that's going to cover it for this assignment. Our next assignment's also going to be on a similar concept of using tools in alternative manners. I think it's where we're going to kind of go with this week. So in our next assignment, we're going to talk about how to use Google Slides as a notebook instead of using Google Docs. And I'll show you some of and explain why I think it's a better option to some degree as well. But with that, guys, seeing no hands raised, seeing no blank stares, class dismissed. Bye.